think it should be now, I think. All right. Let's see. All right, so I think I got everything all figured out now. Um, well, it's my first live on YouTube, so you have to give me some grace in this process as I, you know, navigate the tools that are available to me. Um, So let's get started. The first thing I want to get started with is the British Airways Pilot Program. Now, if you're new on this channel, again, my name is Steven, and on this channel I focus more on aviation topics, on how you can get started as a pilot in the US specifically. But in general, I try to provide as much information to people that are trying to become pilots, and I have gone through the process, and currently I'm an airline pilot, and I am trying to give back and share more information to people that are striving to become pilots and looking for ways in which they can get to achieve their goals. Like I mentioned, if you have any questions in my previous videos, if you've watched my previous videos, I've mentioned in them that if you have questions, you can always leave them in the comment section below. You can always reach me via Instagram. And of course, as you watch this live, if you are here and if you're watching it as a recorded video, don't forget to also leave your questions in the comment section or in the live chat. I can see Vincent Alakija, thanks for joining, and I see Black Aviator as well, thanks for joining. Hola. That's awesome. I thank you guys. This is my first time, so again, just bear with me. Now, the point here is I'm trying to talk more about British Airways Pilot Program because this is something that they don't do often. It's the last demo they did, I believe, was maybe 2017 or 2018, if I remember correctly. And of course, pandemic happened, things shut down. A lot of airlines were overstaffed, and that meant that they had to follow pilots and lay off pilots, and they gave early retirements to pilots as well in the process. So now that the aviation industry is slightly changing in terms of demand for pilots is there now. A lot of airlines are hiring pilots now. There is need for a pathway for aspiring pilots to join airlines, and that's why even in the US as well, there's a lot of cadet programs going on. There's a lot of scholarship programs going on, and of course, this British Airways pilot program was one I stumbled upon, and I see low pop as well. Thank you, and that's why I am trying to bring this information to you guys. So let's talk about it real quick. I'm going to get into it. You guys know about British Airways already. You guys have probably read about this pilot program already. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But as we know, they're trying to sponsor about 60 applicants for a fully funded pilot training program. And this is an amazing opportunity for people that are unable to self-fund the training. I would say, in a position that, I was sponsored by my parents. And I understand that it's very expensive. I understand that it's, financially tasking. And not a lot of people can do that. And with a program like British Airways, they will fund you through the training all through. And it's available to people that have the ability to, I'm guessing, work in the UK. Is that? I don't know what's going on. Okay, I think I'm back again. Okay, so I'm not sure if I lost you guys there, but if at any time in the process, because I might get carried away while I'm talking, just leave a comment section in the comment section to let me know. Okay, somebody said yes, so thank you so much for letting me know. All right, so I'm going to be talking about this. These are my bullet points that I'm going to be covering. Like I said, leave comments in the comment section for the purpose of this, the purpose of this live video is to cover, give you some information about the program, give you some resources. Thank you. Give you some resources that you can use in preparation for the application window, which we know is sometime in September. We don't know exact date yet, but it's going to be coming open. It's going to become available to the public anytime from now. And I'll talk a little briefly on the resume and personal statements that may be required. And of course, I'll cover the previous British Airways pilot program outline from the previous cadet program that they've offered in the past. And of course, I'll try to answer some questions that you guys may have. So as I go along in the process, if you see something that you have questions about and you're not sure, or it's not clear to you, kindly just leave it in the comment section. I will try to review those comment sections as we go along. One thing that I want to mention as a disclaimer, I am not affiliated with British Airways in any way. I do not work for British Airways. I do not know about the pilot program. I'm not an administrator of the program in any way. So I just want to make that clear to people so that they don't think I work for British Airways in any way. So anyway, so let's get into some of the information that I have for you guys. The application criteria, I think you guys can see that. Let me make sure. Yes. All right. The application criteria, you guys have seen it already. Be 17 years of age to apply, your 6G CSE grade, A through C or 5 through 9, including maths. That's an equivalent of an high school grade, GED or high school diploma. Be fluent in English and have a valid passport which permits unrestricted worldwide travel. And I've actually gotten a question about that in the past. Someone asking, what is a valid passport? Okay, I'm seeing your comments. Thank you so much for leaving them there. I would answer them as I continue, all right? So a valid passport, a valid international passport, all right? In some cases, I'm not an immigration expert. Some passports do have restrictions to certain countries, whereas some other, and this, I'm not talking about visa here. I'm not talking about the visa requirements. I'm actually talking about the passport itself. Some passports do have certain restrictions to certain countries, and as a pilot, those passports would hinder your ability to fly professionally. There's a lot of border patrol requirements that goes into that. Again, I'm not an immigration expert, but that is just something that I've gotten a question about, and that's why I'm covering it in this video. The height requirement, the medical, that is similar to a first class medical in the US. Before your training starts, you must complete your referencing and pre-employment checks to the satisfactory standard and supply satisfactory UK and international criminal records checks. Now, those are all background checks. Those will be done in any case. Now, one thing that I want to emphasize is if you haven't done this already, make sure you go and sign up for the job alerts. That is one way you will get alerted or get alerts for the opening of this cadet program. Now, while I'm on this topic as well, I've actually gotten a question from people that ask, is this open to international students, whether you're from, for example, Nigeria, whether you're from India, whether you're from any part of the world. From my understanding, I believe it may be open to everyone. It may be, all right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because I've seen the application requirements in the previous years in which they actually specified that if you are not able to work in the UK, then you can't continue the application. But in this particular case, there is no point stated that you need to have you need to be a UK citizen or have the ability to work in the UK system. So I'm going to, with caution, say that it is open to everyone. But again, when the application window actually opens up, that's when we get to see more details about this. But at this point, I'm going to say that if you are from any other part of the world other than the UK, I would say you still keep in mind to check, okay? Because you never know. This opportunities comes once in a lifetime, to be honest with you. Not a lot of people would get opportunities to like this to get sponsored for further training. So let's move on to that. So make sure you sign up for the job alert. The next thing that I want to cover, okay, let's go back here. I have my note. Now I've covered the information section of the uh, of the program itself. Now let's talk about resources. Now, one thing to remember is this application process, it's not just a one-time thing. It's going to be an ongoing process for a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so. The reason is because there are a couple of stages that you would have to go through. It's not something that you would just do once and be done with. So manage your expectations as you approach this application window that would open up again sometime in September. And that's why I'm going to provide some of the resources to you guys in preparation for it. Let's talk about resume, personal statement that may be required. Now, as an applicant, you will likely be required to provide a personal statement and a background about yourself in a resume format, like your history of what you've done, what you've achieved. And I'm not going to be able to spend so much time on this at this point, but I'm guessing this may be required, or most likely will be required. But again, I do not know that for sure. But let's talk about the resume for a second. Your resume, one thing that you want to make sure you can, if you can, make sure you get it reviewed by a professional. There is going to be a resource I'm going to share with you towards the, as we get towards more of this live discussion. There's going to be a point where I'm going to mention a professional service or service that is being provided not by me but by a company in the UK, and they actually prepare people or applicants for this opportunity. That is kind of what they do. Again, I'm not affiliated with them. I do not know them. I'm not selling anything to you guys, so do not think that I'm trying to market to you. That's not the point. But the purpose of this is I want you guys to succeed, and I want you guys to put your best foot forward. All right, which means as you are going through your preparation for this opportunity, maybe you want to start looking at have a resume ready and get it reviewed by someone that does this professionally. Can I look at it for you? I do not consider myself a professional resume reviewer or someone that looks or that writes resumes for people, so I am not going to say I qualify for that position. But yes, I've seen resumes in the past. I've worked with a lot of students as an instructor trying to make resume. I've made resumes for myself in the past. But the point here is I would want you guys to do that by yourself, and that is make sure that you emphasize your achievements. Make sure you emphasize your awards. Make sure you emphasize your educational background in that resume. Your qualifications are important as well. The other thing to also mention is in discussing some of your achievements, try to emphasize how you've worked well with people in terms of maybe if you've worked in a crew environment, make sure you emphasize that. Make sure you emphasize safety, okay, because you're applying for an aviation role or aviation opportunity. They want to make sure that you are a safe and competent applicant, aspiring pilot, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure you emphasize safety. You also want to emphasize leadership roles that you have taken in the past, okay? Last but not least, make sure you also emphasize volunteering activities that you've done in the past. Let's assume that you volunteer in a local organization, in the school environment, in your business or the place you work. Then make sure you emphasize those things as well, because they all go a long way. Now, personal statements. I'm going to tell you something about this as well. When it comes to if it's required, again, this is all if it's required. I'm guessing it will be required, but I'm going to give you this information. You can always save this video. You can always save it. You can download it. You can rewatch it. Do whatever you want to do with it. But the point here is, with your personal statement, make sure you emphasize some of these are the things I mentioned in your resume, because now in your personal statement you can actually expand on that. But here's where your personal statement becomes very important. You will have to explain why you think you deserve the opportunity, why you think you qualify for the opportunity, or why you are best suited to be part of those chosen, all right, for this opportunity. Remember, there are only 60 applicants for this. I can bet you, and I can assure you that there are going to be a lot of people in the hundreds, maybe even in the thousands that are applying for this. So remember to emphasize your motivation for becoming a pilot. All right. Remember to emphasize your motivation to work for British Airways and fly for them. Remember to talk about what brought you into the aviation industry, or what piqued your interest, all right, in order to pursue that goal of becoming a pilot. So that is very important. So let's move on to the next thing there, all right? Previous British Airways program outline, okay? Now, like I've mentioned, maybe at some point at the earlier part of this video, of this live, I actually said that a lot of sorry, I kind of lost my thoughts. I actually said, oh, this program is not something that they do every year. This Speedbird Pilot program, this is a new one. And in the past, they've had cadet programs that they've provided, sponsored people through training. Now, with this new program, we don't exactly know what the outline looks like. We don't know exactly what the steps would look like. But like I mentioned, when the application window opens, they will tell us exactly what is required. Now, in the previous programs, okay, I had an opportunity to find some information on that. And I have some of the stages that were used during that process. So let's talk about the stages of the process, or during that application period, because remember, I've talked about the requirement to apply, which is on the British Airways Speedbird page. Like I think you can see that I'm over and over it right now. Once you have the qualifications to apply, then you can then join, you can get into the process itself, okay? The stages of the process are, the first stage, in the previous cadet program, I'm emphasizing, this is not what is going to happen now. I'm just telling you what the previous stages look like so that you can manage your expectations. In the previous stage, L3 was part of the administrating, it's a flight school, okay? L3 is a flight school, it's an organization. But in partnership with British Airways, L3 organized some portion of the assessment, okay, that you would have to go through after you've applied, okay? Everybody would have to go through that process, if that makes sense. Remember, you need to meet all the requirements first to apply. Once you apply, you're going to go through the stages of the application process, all right? And at the end of it all, if you then pass all the stages, then you are then accepted into the program. Okay, remember they only have 60 applicants, so if they run out of people, that can also be an issue, right? So keep that in mind. So let's move on. The L3 had an online phase in which you would have to take 3 short essay questions, and then you do a basic math test, and then you do a psychometric test as well. Now, the second stage to that, once you make it through that first stage, the second stage to that is the British Airways numerical and verbal reasoning test. The numerical reasoning test requires you to answer 25 advanced math questions in 12 minutes. Now, this was from a previous assessment, okay, not the coming one. So I'm emphasizing that to you guys just so that you can manage your expectations as you go forward, because the application window can open anytime from now, and when it opens up, you want to be ready, quote unquote. The second part to that is verbal reasoning. You're given a piece of text to read through and given several multiple choice questions based on the text in which you have to infer the answer. So that is the second stage. That is under British Airways. So remember, the first one is from L3, which is a flight school. Once you pass that, you go to British Airways, you do the second phase. And the third stage, you go back to L3, which in this case, this is now a you have to go to a physical location, okay? In the UK, by the way, mind you, this is not for US applicant. This is in the UK. There's an L3 flight school in the US as well. That's why I'm trying to emphasize that, okay? You do a group interview, or they did a group interview. The people that took that test in the past did a group interview, and this is they had to sign a privacy waiver. Okay, it was signed, which meant that they couldn't share what was discussed or what type of test was done. But the goal of the group interview is that they want to see how well you communicate. They want to see your leadership skills. They want to see if you're a team player. And most importantly, they want to see that you can be part of a team. Now, as a pilot, you always work with crew members. They want to make sure that you are not the type that will break down the communication chain in a critical environment, okay, like flying. So you want to be part of the team. You want to show that you're a team player. So it says to be successful within a group, you need to speak up. Now, speak up in the sense, not that you have to be rude or obnoxious, right? But you want to make sure that you can confidently share your opinions and seek feedback. That's very important. Seek feedback from people that are either subordinate to you or people that are actually at a higher level as well. So for example, as a first officer, remember, as you're answering some of these questions, you come across these questions in the process, put yourself as a pilot. Imagine yourself as a pilot, as a first officer. You have a captain, you have a cabin crew, you have your passengers, you have a gate agent, you have your ground crew, you have a maintenance crew, you have a dispatcher, and so on. All these resources are there for you. And as you are interacting with all these resources, you're gathering information and you're sharing information. And you want to make sure that they are testing that along the way in these group interviews, okay? The next thing here is this. The assessors during a group interview are looking for people who engage well with colleagues and demonstrate qualities that are looked for in a pilot. So good CRM, and I think I've already emphasized that. Now, in that article, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys, I'm also going to share it in the description section of this video. It actually listed some acronyms that you can use in answering some of these questions. No matter the situation, no matter the task, there are acronyms that can help you get back on track and answer the questions that needs answers to, right? So you want to make sure that those tasks can be done. That's why they have this acronym there. I'm not going to talk about it. It's not important right now. I'm just sharing a previous assessment with you guys. Then after you finish the group section, then you're going to do a one-on-one interview in which you are going to sit with a pilot, most likely, or maybe an HR person, but most likely it's going to be a pilot, where you're going to talk about some of your real life experiences, and it's just checking for your competency as an applicant aspiring to become a pilot. Now they're not going to test you as a full-fledged pilot, if that makes sense, right? But they're going to test your understanding to make sure that you actually know what you're getting yourself into. Okay, so for example, it says, give an example of a time when you have worked as part of a team. How do you cope with failure? Tell me about a time when you led a team. Give me an example of a time when you had to make a decision under pressure. So you can see none of these questions are strictly aviation related, but they can infer or deduce from your answers how you would cope in the aviation world. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. And again, another acronym, which is a common one. This acronym, by the way, it's not necessarily, it's not strictly restricted to aviation. You can use this acronym even in your daily lives, okay? But it makes sense. It will help you get to the bottom of the question and make sure that you answer them the way they expect you to answer them. Now, one thing I can add to this, I didn't write this, by the way. This is something that I found online, which I'll share with you guys. And actually, I need to make sure I do that, because most of this experience is not because I experienced it personally. These were experiences from someone else that actually did it. She was a flight attendant for British Airways. Her name is Olivia. I'll share the link and you guys can go read the article. It's very lengthy, but I think you guys should do that. If you're trying to prepare yourself, get all the necessary knowledge that you think you would need in preparation for this opportunity that is coming up. I think you guys should read it. So the last thing I actually had here is review. Okay, so the result, yes, you want to get a result, but you also can review, and review can mean actually get, what did you learn? Okay, you got a result of the situation, right? What was the outcome of your actions? Okay, you took an action, and what did you learn from it? And that's where the review comes in. Okay, so but that's just something I'm throwing in as bonus. It's not necessarily required, but you get the point. The stage 4 of the process is the final assessment, which will be done in waterside in UK at the British Airways headquarters. And you can see it's 3 parts as well. It has an aptitude test, it has a group interview, and a 2-to-1 interview. Now, the reason, and I know that you guys might feel like this seems like a lot, but it is a lot, okay? But this portion of it, okay, because British Airways is hiring you as a pilot. So as a pilot, this is what you would have gone through, this British Airways assessment program. Now, of course, it's going to be tailored down for applicants of this sponsored programs, not the typical experienced pilot assessment. No, it's not going to be that way. But the aptitude test will test your, psychomotor skills, memory skills, or memory retention abilities. Cognitive skills as well will be tested in the process. Group interview, that's similar to exactly what was done in the earlier phase, and 2-to-1 interview. The only difference here is the state of aptitude test and group interview is similar to what you've done in the previous stages. But the 2-to-1 interview is something that is probably going to be new, because now you have an HR or maybe a pilot or 2 pilots, or sometimes you might have a retired pilot and a current pilot. It all depends. But the point here is you're going to have 2 people interviewing you, and you talk about what they ask questions and then you answer questions based on the same guidance that I've shared with you. But again, like I mentioned to you, this is a previous assessment, but I'm assuming, okay, this is an assumption, that it's going to be similar to what you expect going forward. So the resources that I want to share with you guys, which I think is the biggest portion of all of this video, okay, if you take anything away, the resources I'm sharing with you is what you want to take away from here. All right, let's talk about the first one. See the math section. I know a lot of people will talk about math being, how difficult it's going to be. Now, to be honest with you, the math sections are usually, well, I haven't taken it, but from what the person said also, from their own experience, it wasn't difficult, but you just don't have a lot of time. Okay, you don't have a lot of time, which means they were trying to test you under pressure. They're trying to test if you would still, a lot of people give in to pressure. Like when something is not going their way, they just break down and they can't move forward. And because it's a timed assessment, a lot of people start to feel that pressure and they break down. And that's what you don't want. So the goal here is not necessarily to answer all the questions, and not in any pilot assessment test. Understand that the goal is not to answer all the questions. I mean, if you can, of course, that's great. But make sure that you can use this link, which I would share in the comment section towards the end of this video. I'll put it there. It's not there right now, but in the description of this video, I will share those links. You guys can click on it and start practicing. That's the goal idea of this YouTube video. The next thing is aptitude test. So let's talk about these ones. These ones are quite important because in the US, there are so many organizations that provide these test preparations for you in anticipation that, knowing that the application window is coming up. I would say that if you can, start looking at some of this. If you know that you're planning to apply, or if you want to wait until the application window opens up, that's fine. But I'm thinking, I don't know how long it's going to be open for. Is it going to be 2 months? Is it going to be 1 month? I don't know. But the point is, you just want to be ready for it. So I'm going to share this with you on my screen right now, and I think you guys can see it. Let's redirecting there. Okay, so this is the website, okay? And you can see it says Pilot Aptitude and Psychometric Test. This would help you in the process, okay? Now, what program itself? The program itself actually had it up earlier. So this is one of the programs, okay? The Sky Test Preparation Software for UK Pilot Aptitude Screenings. But there's actually another one that I saw that I felt was more relevant, and I had it up earlier. So let me choose British Airways so you guys can see exactly how I'm going through it. So British Airways Future, British Airways Future Pilot Program at L3, British Airways Program. So it's for the one that was done in the past, that's the one at L3, okay? So if I select that and I click this one, let me see. No, that's not it. Let me choose this one. Okay, here it is. So you can see the second one here says Sky Test Preparation Software for UK Pilot Aptitude Screenings. So that is something to consider. I think it's actually the same then. Maybe it's the same with this one. Okay, it's the same then. So that is something to consider looking into. Okay, and as you can see, it's a program that is tailored for not just British Airways, but now the whole idea about this, just to emphasize again, this is not if you enroll in this program or you buy this test or whatever, you can get to practice, okay, because the key thing is to practice before the actual assessment. It may not be exactly the same, but at least it should be similar, okay? So that is the first one there. The second one here is the latest one from Latest Pilot Jobs. I'll click that as well. And you can see it has a pilot aptitude test preparation as well. It has a cadet aptitude test preparation as well. Now, of course, this may not apply to British Airways, so you have to be careful about that, but I think you can search. So let me go to search, and then I can come to British Airways City Flyer or British Airways Future Pilot Program. This is the aptitude test for that one as well that they are selling. I guess they sell it. And then these, which one did I select? That one. Let me try the City Flyer. And if you choose the City Flyer, okay, it gives you an idea for the math test, verbal reasoning, and I think those are the two ones that I think you should consider, because those are the things that you just want to have an idea of what a test would look like. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see it, but again, I'm going to share all those links with you guys. Please share the link to this document. Okay, I'm going to do that. Okay, like I said, I exactly do that. I just want to go through this. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Then the last thing that I have here is the Aviator Cloud, and this is a big one too. Okay, like I said, this one, all right, it says it specifically, British Airways Future Pilot Program Preparation Online Course. It's a course. It's 98 pounds or euros, pounds, euros, whatever, and I think it's pounds. So it tells you exactly what you're looking for, and this is the program I'm talking about. Now, one thing to keep in mind in all of this, I'm not vouching that the test will be exactly like this or the stages will be exactly like this, but what you need is something to prepare you in for the upcoming, you know, for the upcoming program, or for the upcoming program, I just want to give you all these tools. That's the goal here. I want to give you guys all the tools that you need so that when that application window opens up, you are not caught off guard and you don't feel like you're not prepared. Okay. All right. I think that's all I got there. Now I'm going to answer questions and I'll be sharing the link. So give me a second. I'm just going to copy and paste all of this in there and you guys can see it as well. Let me do that on this computer. So just give me a second. Think about your questions because I'll be able to answer questions at this point. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to copy, while you guys are thinking of that, I'm going to copy and paste this in the description of the video. I hope it will update. That's Olivia's experience. Do that. You guys can save this for future use. All right. Or you can always save the video so that you can always link the get the links in the future. All right. Pilot program. Okay, I think I got everything. Yes, that's it. And I'm going to save it. I hope this works exactly as I'm imagining it to work. I hope it should work that way. I'm not sure, but if you guys can, if you refresh this live video, I don't know if that's what you guys should do, but I'm thinking you guys should do that. If you refresh it, you'll be able to see in the description of this video you're watching, you should be able to see the links there. And when you click on the link, it should take you to those websites that I've just shared with you guys, exactly what you guys are seeing on my page right now. If you guys can do me a favor, just give me a thumbs up, if you, or not, maybe a thumbs up, or maybe just let me know that you guys can actually click those links in the description section. I would appreciate that if you guys can do that. Awesome. I can get, somebody said it's there, so that's good. All right. I'm going to answer the questions from here. Please don't forget to drop a like. Again, I would appreciate that. I can see 13 people are watching right now, so please go ahead and drop a like. I would appreciate that. It goes a long way. I only see 4 likes, which means that people are not really liking it. I don't know if I'm doing a terrible job, but let me know, okay? It's my first live, so I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but at least I just want to make sure that you guys are finding value in this. Okay, so looking at the questions, please, can I join or earn this scholarship if I'm not from UK? I'm a Ghanaian and these scholarships are mostly for citizens. So that's a good question, and I think I answered that earlier. I believe this is open to everyone. I want to just caveat that you are right. A lot of these programs are usually for citizens, but majority of the time, it's for citizens, but there are times when it's actually open to everyone. And in this particular case, and maybe I can share this article with you also, there's one, well, not an article, it's just something that I found. The previous requirements, the old requirements from British, this is something that was just me digging around. Let me see if I can find it here. So if I zoom in on this, okay, so that you guys can see it, let me close some of these ads. In the previous requirements of these cadet programs, and just to let you know, nothing has really changed in these requirements, okay? And this is why I'm thinking that the resources that I've just provided may be very close to accurate in terms of the stages of this application process, okay, or be the vetting process for this program. The reason why I think it may be very accurate or maybe close to accurate is because even the application criteria hasn't really changed. But something changed in answering that question about being citizens of a different place, okay, not of the UK. Valid passport. So if you look at it, this is the old, where is it again? Okay, so this section here, I'm going to highlight it. This section here was copied from the previous requirement for the cadet program for British Airways. And I want you to pay attention to this part. This section, it says, I'm going to highlight it, the unrestricted right to live and work in the UK. It says, please note that a work-study visa does not satisfy this requirement. So as long as you have the unrestricted right to live and work in the UK, in the previous cadet application process, you can apply. However, in the new requirement, they've taken it away, which is the one here. As you can see, none of this is number 1 here. None of this requirement states anywhere that you need to have unrestricted right to live or work in the UK. So I've tried to get an answer to that question from a program coordinator through email, but they haven't responded. That's the truth about it. So I'm guessing it is open to everyone. I wouldn't turn it down until you actually confirm that it is not open to you before you give up, if that makes sense. So that's that. Moving to the next one. As a US citizen, are we allowed to apply to British Airways flight training? What is the cutoff age, if any? I didn't see any cutoff age anywhere. As a US citizen, I don't see why not. Okay, I believe it's open to, again, this is kind of related to the previous question as well. But I believe it's open to everyone. So I'm really anticipating this application window opening up just to see that if this is open to everyone, for in reality. I don't want to get hopes up. I don't want to say that it's open to everyone and it's not. I'm just trying to share what I have found. Are there any advantages for already having your instrument commercial ticket and 360 hours of total time? Well, that's a good question too. Now, if you go to British Airways page itself, which I hope you guys can see this, if you scroll down, there's a section. There are two pathways to this program. The first one is the newly qualified pilot pathway, or the whitetail. Pretty much, if you read here, it says it at the top, newly qualified pilot pathway. This program enables both integrated and modular students to apply from any flight school that you have chosen to train with. Now, if you are in training, or you have maybe completed training, because in this requirement in the newly qualified pilot pathway, it says it somewhere here that you have a final report provided by ATO citing exceptional training performance. So that means you've completed training and motivation for career. And then there's another portion here that says, where do I see that again? Physical fitness, UK license. Okay, training completed no earlier. Okay, 1st January 2020. So that is something to keep in mind. So if you've completed your training prior to this period, 1st January 2020, then it may not apply to you. And if you are still in flight school, or you are still going through the process, I want to believe that this is open to you. On the other hand, with the whitetail, the difference is that with the whitetail, they have selected these flight schools, or these organizations, which they are all flight schools, L3, Airways, Skyborne, these are all CAE, these are all flight training centers. Then they will select those flight schools in which you then go to join and then train. So, but I hope that answers the question. Again, these are all things that I've just gathered online, reading and figuring out some of these things. Let me see. The next thing here is, are there any, okay, I've mentioned that. Luckily, I'm a foreign resident of the UK. The only thing I ponder is how the salary of the UK airline compares to the US. Great question, Vincent. Now, the thing is that with the salary differences, I want you to understand something. In as much as the salaries may differ, okay, it may seem, and I've heard that a lot. A lot of people say that the US pilots generally at the top end of it, like, depth, because think about this. In the US, we have regionals, we have the majors. In the UK, they have, I believe, shuttle. There's a term for them as well, but they're pretty much just like their own regional version, or shuttle flyer or city flyer. I don't know what they call them, but there's a name for the term that they use over there. But their major is like British Airways. And even though their salaries may not be, you can't really compare it. That's the point, because the standard of living is also different here. In the US, there's a lot more tax. Well, actually, there's more taxes in the UK, but the point is, it's hard to compare the salaries, because yes, the US may seem like they pay more, but also remember, it's a little bit more expensive depending on where you live in the US also. And remember, most of the bases that these airlines also operate out of are expensive areas. You don't have to live in those areas, which is a different topic for a different video. I'm not going to get into that. But hey, it's a good paying job. And I believe you start out with about 30-something thousand pounds in the UK after you get through this program and you've finished your training, which will take you about 2 years, roughly about 2 years to finish, assuming everything goes exactly as planned. So making 34,000 pounds, haven't spent any dime on training, I think is worth it. All right, hello Christina Pierre. Wait, I don't know who that is, but thank you for joining. If that's your name, what is included in the psychometric test? That is a good question. Psychometric test is pretty much, usually they're testing for your visual, your memory retention capabilities, high-hand coordination tests. So sometimes this test can be as simple as balancing a ball using a keyboard, okay, on a lever where you just have to stabilize the ball. Sometimes the psychometric test can be as memorizing numbers or colors, and then you have a few seconds to memorize it, and then the question disappears, and then they tell you to produce the number. But the whole idea is just testing your memory, your high hand coordination, and how you do under pressure. Sometimes there are some that would require that you try to fly like a Microsoft sim, where I'm sure you guys have seen Microsoft flight simulators where you try to fly an airplane, pitch, climb, descent, all that stuff. But in this particular assessment, I didn't see anything like that. In the previous cadet program assessment stages, there was nothing about a sim. Okay, so I'm going to emphasize that. Moving to the next one, what is included in the document? Okay, I've mentioned that. Did BA publish? Let me see. Did BA publish this document? No, no. This document, the only document British Airways has published on all of this is this page that I have currently showing. The other pages were just me, well, not only that. Let me see, what should I want the British Airways publish? The job alerts, I think I mentioned that to you guys to sign up for the job alerts. That's the British Airways page. All right. This was a virtual event which I wasn't able to join. This particular one here. Okay, I wasn't able to join that, but that's a British Airways page. The point here is most of these articles, most of the information I'm sharing with you guys were all gathered from previous experiences of people that have done it in the past. Remember, this is not something that they do every year, so it's hard to come by some of this information. And I can't, I'm not saying that this coming one will be exactly like this, but it at least gives you something to work on. How can we best get ready for the online assessment? Well, I think I've given you that resource. That's how well you can really prepare for it, for the online assessment. Please share the link. I've done that. Wizz Air Pilot Academy. I actually don't know much about Wizz Air Pilot Academy. I will be honest with you. I would have to look into that. But I can actually write it down. And maybe talk about that in a different one, okay? You can see it. Thank you, sir, for your live. A question is this type of flight school? All right, so I'm looking at the question from Vincent. It says, thank you for your live. Sure. A question I do have is, does this type of flight school you go to matter to the airlines? Is there a ranking system when it comes to the type of flight school you? No, there's no ranking system when it comes to the flight school you went to. The most important thing is the only reason why you ever get ranked when it comes to qualifications is maybe experience and the certificates you hold. So for example, someone that has, let's say, private pilot certificate, instrument rated certificate, a commercial pilot certificate, is going for the same job as someone that has all those three certificates plus maybe an instructor certificate plus maybe an ATPL certificate. Of course, that's going to cost them to rank that person with more experience and knowledge over the person that has just three. The other thing to remember is your flight experience is something that also could lead to that. If they need, let's say, 500 minimum of 500 hours for that same job, then someone that has 550 and someone that has 600 will probably, someone that has 600 may probably be favored, okay, just because of that. But it all depends on the airlines, okay. All right, let's see. Trains at and do airlines favor? All right, with the flight school question, no. You can go to any flight school as long as you have good certificates, like your certificate tells you that you have all the ratings that you need. There is no favorites, or is it like a ranking system amongst flight schools? Yes, in going in, you might want to go to the best flight school, but when you get to the airlines, everyone is equal because everybody is applying for the same job. At the end of the day, as long as you can make through the assessment, that is what is important. Let's see. Similar to Ivy League universities. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. No, that doesn't apply with Ivy League universities where some employers want someone from maybe Cambridge or Oxford over someone that went to a regular college. That's not the case with flight training or with airlines. At the end of the day, they need a pilot. They need someone that is competent. Whether you went to Princeton or you went to some Joe Blow college in the backyard, as long as you have your qualifications, that is what is important. All right, let's see. Jacob from Nigeria, please, can I also apply for this scholarship? International student eligible? I think I already answered that question, but like I mentioned, I want to say that it's open to everyone with a caution. With a caution. I've already emphasized that in a previous section of this video. So if you want to kind of go back in time, you might be able to see me answer that question. So I won't have to go over that again. I'm 18. And I will be starting university this month. Theoretically, if I was to be selected, would I miss out on the uni experience? That is a good question. I wouldn't say that you would miss out on the university experience. Okay, I'm answering this question of, is 18 years old. I hope you guys can see this because I'm using a different computer to look at the questions. Okay, is 18 years old and will be starting university this month. It says, theoretically, if I was to be selected, would I miss out on the uni experience slash personal development aspect? I will say this: when it comes to flight training, actually, when it comes to this opportunity, I would say that you place, unless you have a lot of money, okay? Let me say, unless you have a lot of money and you think this opportunity is not something to really fight for or to go for, then that's okay. But this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's the truth about it, to get sponsored for a flight training program. So you can always get your college, you can always go to university once let's say you're 18. This program will take about 2 years to complete. You're going to be, say, 2021. If you go to college in 21, that's never too late. You can still go to college while you're actually working as a professional pilot. And I actually will tell you something. That is something that I feel like you would appreciate more, assuming you got taken into this program, and then you have to go to college at the age of 21, working at that point. Yes, it might be a little bit tedious, but the point here is at that point you actually know better exactly what you want to study. You're already working in the industry, and now you're just adding on to your qualifications. So it's going to be a win-win in the long run. On the other hand, if you choose to go to college, well, this opportunity may not be there when you're done with college, okay, or university. It may not be there for you. So keep that in mind. Just showing a student of Africans interested. I already answered that question from Addis Tasfa. Thank you for looking into with a lot of people interested. We'll do that, and I will try to find more information about it. Oh, by the way, for you guys that are joining or watching, thank you so much for doing that. The reason is because by asking these questions, first of all, you are gaining, all the other people are also learning as well, because some of these questions are things that you probably have thought about in the past, and I'm getting to answer your questions. So please feel free to ask your questions. A lot of people will benefit from it, including you. The other thing is, like the Wizz Air Pilot Academy that the football TikToks mentioned, it's something that actually, it's something that I believe, when I look into it, I will talk about it. I can actually make a video about it next time, not exactly at this point because this live is getting a little long. But the point here is I will look into it. And if it benefits other people, or if I feel the need that this is really good to share, I will bring it out to you guys, and it will be beneficial to everybody. So that's why I encourage that you share, or you ask your questions and share your feedback, please. Okay, and of course, leave your feedback. If you think my audio was too loud, leave the feedback. If you think I don't know, whatever I could improve next time, please share it with me. I'm open to those feedback, please. Question is, okay, let's see. From Breezy Daco, it says, please, my question is not about the scholarship. I've applied to Video College of Aeronautical Science and Technology with loan as an international student. Please, working hard, can I pay my loan? Good question, all right? This is not in regards to British Airways, so I appreciate that you actually mentioned that, and I will answer that. Yes, without even working hard. And I'll be honest with that, because right now there's a huge demand for pilots. I share videos about how the projection for the outlook for the demand for pilots is there. Now, there's always another COVID in the corner, right? That we can never predict. Okay, so I want you to understand that without any downturn in the economy or a catastrophic war going on or whatever, where the whole world shuts down, there will be demand for pilots, and you will pay your loan back. The reason is because pay is increasing. Like, have you guys seen United pay rates, Delta pay rates, even American Airlines pay rates in the US anyway? And I'm sure this is kind of happening worldwide, at least in majority of developed countries where pay rates are going up. So if you borrow, let's assume you borrow $100,000 for your training, guess what? It would pay off, because right from the gate, getting hired at a regional nowadays, you're getting bonuses up to almost $100,000 bonuses. Now, of course, you'll be taxed and all that stuff, but that is just to tell you that the opportunities are there. You pay your loan back. I would encourage to do that. If that is the only option that you have to get a loan, go ahead and do it as soon as you can so that you can get on with these airlines. All right, what is your advice between ATP and CTP CAE flight schools? ATP, CTP, honestly, they are both great places, okay? At the end of it all, okay, the most important thing is your education. And I know I'm going away from British Airways at this point, okay? I want to emphasize that, but I'm trying to answer these questions and make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. So the point here is with ATP and CTP, and CAE rather, they are both great flight organizations to train at. I have nothing bad to say. What the bottom line is for you to be able to study, okay, for you to be able to learn. Remember, flying is like riding a bicycle. Some people can learn to ride in a week. Some people will take 2 weeks to learn, and that would mean that it would increase the cost of training. So the longer it takes you to learn, the more you would spend. But no matter the flight school you go to, at the end of it all, they are using the same books. They are flying similar airplanes. What will make a difference is you and your instructor. Okay, if you have a good instructor, then you should be fine. Whether you're in Embry-Riddle or you're in the top flight school in the UK or in the US, it doesn't matter. It's good to go to good flight schools, don't get me wrong, because of structure, because of the type of airplanes, because of safety records, because of the weather in the area, and so forth, which I'm not going to get into in this. But the point here is both CAE and ATP are great places. Choose the one that is close to you and get started as soon as you can. On average, what would you say is the usual time frame from 0 to CFI level? All right, good question. With training from 0 to CFI, generally between 150 and 250. And it's a wide gap, but it all depends on the program you study. If you study, if you go through like a part in the US, part 141 program, it might take you about 150. If you do the part 61 program, it might take you closer to 250 and above. Okay, it all depends on the program, but the point here is it's anywhere between those numbers that I mentioned. Thanks, Vincent. I see you're doing a great job. Thanks, man. By the way, Steven, do you hold a bachelor's degree? And if so, has that benefited you in any? That's a good question as well. Yes, I do hold a bachelor's degree. I have a computer science degree, and has it benefited me? Yes, it has. Okay, but in terms of the job itself, not really. Because remember, the requirements to start flying in all of these airlines is just a high school certificate. Now, in like maybe about 2-3 years ago, major airlines will require that you have a bachelor's degree. Nowadays, they've taken out that requirement. Why? Because there is a lot of demand for pilots, and in order to make sure that the application is open to a lot of people, they took away most of those restrictions. But if the situation changes in the next, in the next future or the next, few years, they may put back those restrictions. Remember, the airlines would have to operate based on need. If they need a lot of people, they remove restrictions. If they don't need a lot of people, they put more restrictions. It's as simple as that. All right, let's see. Thank you, Steven. You have really motivated me. I was thinking about how to repay. Thank you so much, Breezy. I'm 61 and completed. Hey, thank you, Roger. It says I'm 61. I completed my first solo cross country. Congrats on that. I'm not sure I can build 1500 in time to work as an airline pilot at a regional in time to get jet experience as. I see your point, because the retirement age right now is 65. Remember, they are working on extending the retirement age to 67. Okay, so that's something you need to keep in mind. You're right. You want to get your hours as soon as you can, and you're thinking, I'm guessing you're saying in time to work as an airline. Yeah, my advice is that if you are thinking of working for the airlines, yes, 61 to 65 might not seem like a lot of time, assuming that age requirement doesn't get extended. But if it gets extended, then in that case, you can even be with the airlines even longer. But like you said, as part 135, there is generally not an age, retirement age. on them. So yes, you might be a better alternative to the Part 121 world. Okay, but I'm trying to understand if that was a question, but I'm but I hope I answered that question, Breezy. Roger, let's see. Okay, it says here, Breezy, please also, is an associate degree in professional pilot program good for the airline industry? If you have an associate degree, that's good as well. Right now, like I mentioned, in the past, the requirements used to be a bachelor's degree, but now there's not even a requirement. The least required educational requirement is the high school diploma. Okay, so I think that answers the question. All right. All right, Vincent, I think I just answered that question. It says, is the retirement age really 65 years old for airline pilots? Yes, right now, but they are working on that. That is going to Congress. It passed the House and it passed the Congress and is going to Senate now. As a pilot must retire once they have reached 65. Right now, yes, once you reach 65, you have to retire. But that is they are trying to push that to 67 because of this shortage of pilots. If I'm studying mechanical engineering, it may help. If you study mechanical engineering, it doesn't matter. You can study history, or you can study mechanical engineering. As long as you have the qualifications, it doesn't change your. It doesn't give you any benefits in terms of the job itself. Okay, but in other aspects of your life, it is beneficial. For example, I studied computer science. So yes, in other aspects of my life, in searching for other opportunities, maybe a side job, a side gig, or whatever, your degree can become important. All right, I earned an associate in computer technology and bachelor's in cybersecurity. Now I want to earn a bachelor's in aviation science with my CFI. That's great, Roger. That's awesome. I mean, again, like I mentioned, your degrees don't really change, doesn't give you any added benefit. It's good to have it in terms of having for the job, but it doesn't benefit the job directly. That's why they took away the requirement. But for a potential employer, all right, it may be a required thing, okay? Because like I said, Delta, United, American, all of them did require that in the past. Oh, you're yet Imram Bello, all right? He said, I'm yet to acquire a passport. Any advice? Well, if you do not have a passport, then I think you need to start with that, okay? If you're trying to apply for any of this like the British Airways Pilot Pathway program, I think that's something you want to do as soon as you can, because without a passport, you can't even get to travel, right? So you want to do that. The only advice is start working on that. All right, Sully, I did my first class medical recently, and I had to pay about 180 pounds extra for my eye test because I read one number wrong. Is this normal? I had to do a cataract. Wow. That's so in the UK, I think they may have slightly different rules. In the US, because you read a number wrong, I don't think you have to. They may ask you to go and do an eye exam. Okay, the test that is possible in the US. They may ask you to do an eye exam if for some reason you're struggling to read. Yes, and I know that in this British Airways program, one of the things that they need is your UK CAA Class 1 medical. So if you had to pay $180, maybe that's the system in the UK. But I can't say for sure if that was normal or not, or if that is normal or not. John Maxwell, hi Stephen, I wrote my final university exams in July 2023 and my transcript won't be ready until November. Can I use my high school certificate like WAHEC results? Absolutely, you can do that, okay? Because your transcripts are not ready, you can put in your qualification. Remember, your transcript is something that, even if you provide it, the organization doesn't really care because anybody can make up a transcript. So if you do not have your transcript yet, put in the information that you have your degree, put in as something that you've completed. But if they now say proof of transcript, if you do not provide it, there should be a section where you can actually put in like a note or a comment to let them know that your transcript isn't ready yet. But what you can do is also you can actually get your results from your college or your university. those results still stands. Okay, the results for the duration of your years in the university, you can actually upload those, and those will still count as a proof of transcript. Now, when they finally get to do your background checks and educational background checks, they would have to actually request a transcript directly from your university. So that is not something that you would actually, because at the end of the day, anybody can make up results, anybody can make up transcripts. The organization, the employer, in this case, maybe British Airways, would actually have to request a direct proof of your transcript, not from you, if that makes sense. Let's see. Similar to how you see medical field where both doctors and nurses can easily migrate to a country in the West due to severe shortage, is it the same airline? Is it the same with airlines in the US? I'm reading this question about from Vincent. It says, similar to how we see in the medical field where both doctors and nurses can easily immigrate to any country in the West due to severe shortage, is it the same with the airline pilot professionals? Unfortunately, no. The reason, well, yes, but in the US, not really. All right. In other parts of the world, Asia, Africa, maybe in Europe, a lot of people, I'm not sure about Europe actually, but Africa and Asia, you can have your license and ratings from a different country, and all you have to do is convert to that. So let's say you got trained in the UK and you're trying to move to Asia to fly. When you go over there with your qualifications, they will help you convert your license. You might have to do some tests, and they do this in the US as well, by the way, just so you know. They do this in the UK as well, where you can convert your ratings to the local authorities certificate, okay, like FAA in the UK, in Europe, maybe CAA, you know what I mean, or JAA in or EASA, you know, there are so many organizations like that. Every country operates under different rules, but the point is you can always convert your licenses, and if you convert them, you can fly. Now, immigrating to a country to go and work requires a different set of rules, okay, because in the US, you have to then have either a what do you call it, H1 visa or H1B visa. There's so many categories, all right, of this. And the point here is your ratings, yes, may give you the qualifications, but do you actually have the authority or the work authorization to work is a different thing. And that is something that applies to a lot of countries where you have to always have their work authorization. Now, in the US, even though there's a lot of shortage, they are still not filing for foreigners. And that's just government rules. That's, you know, for the aviation world, by the way, okay? In other fields, they are doing that. Maybe some IT fields where they are short on some professionals in those fields, maybe like doctors, like you mentioned, they sometimes would do that. But in aviation right now, that is not being done. Do you believe, let me see, moving to the next one here. I think I'm getting lost. All right. Do you believe more airlines will be offering this sponsored career programs over the coming years? That's a question from Mohammed. That is a good question. It all depends on demand. Okay. The reason why a lot of airlines are coming up with these career programs, like I mentioned, is because there's a lot of demand, and they know that a lot of people are struggling to be able to afford training. So in order to make it accessible to people, they are sponsoring these programs. Now, keep in mind, not all programs are actually fully sponsored. A lot of these programs, especially in the US, they are just acting as they are backing the program, but they are not actually sponsoring you. Okay. Like all these programs in the US, from American Airlines to Delta and all that, what they do is they actually connect you with a bank and a flight school. Okay, so they're just almost like an intermediary. And they're saying that once you finish that program and you're successful, they will hire you. Okay, well, assuming you then go through your own assessment process and you pass, they would hire you. But they are not sponsoring you in the program. With the British Airways program, this is a fully sponsored program, and this is what I'm calling the once in a lifetime opportunity, because they will pay for everything and then you work for them. Now, if you leave, you may owe some money, and that's usually the binding clause, okay, in the contract, where if you leave, before a certain time, you may owe them some money for the investment they've done in your training. Can you please give me your personal email? Breezy Daco. The best way to reach me is my Instagram link. I think I've shared that in some of my videos. I don't think it's in this description, but if you open a new tab, actually I can put it there, but I just want to get done with these questions. I've been on this live for a minute, and I think I have covered a lot. It's been an hour, 11 minutes live, and I really appreciate all the questions, by the way. It's just that I also do have some obligations, okay? But let's continue here with the email. The best way to reach me is my Instagram. If you can link to my Instagram, send me a message, I will respond. If I don't respond, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I will eventually respond. I'll catch up and reply to you. Hi, this is British Airways Scholarship. Is it applicable for people who study physics, chemistry, biology, and advanced level and basic mathematics? It is applicable to you. Yes. If I could look at, I think there's a section in this that mentions pre-employment checks. All right, if you go down to the bottom, let's see here, my qualifications are from Scotland or outside the UK. Are these equivalent to GCSE? No, that's not actually what I'm looking for. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. It says I'm currently at school and I would like to, and I think you guys can see this on your screen. Let me zoom in so that you guys can see it better. The reason this would help answer the question that Kelvin asked. It says, the question here says at the top, as you can see, I'm currently at school and I'd like to know how best I can prepare myself to achieve a career as a pilot with British Airways. And it says it here, for most cadet and training schemes, you will need a minimum of 6 GCSE at grade A through C, 529, including mathematics, English, and the science. Academic criteria is set per campaign. We suggest studying subjects you enjoy. We don't favor any particular A levels or degrees. And this is what I am saying to you guys. Whether you have mechanical engineering or you have history in your degree, or in this case, you studied whatever, as long as, you know, it says they don't favor it. So I hope that answers your question. All right, does being dual citizen, multiple passport holder benefit you as an airline pilot? That's a question from Vincent. Yeah, that's a great question. So let me talk about that for a minute. If you have multiple passports or you have dual citizenship, does it benefit you as a pilot? The answer to that is not really. And the reason I'm saying that is, if we go back to this British Airways requirements here, I'm gonna get to it in a second, just bear with me. All right, here it says a valid passport which permits unrestricted worldwide travel. If someone has 2 passports, okay, because you're dual citizen, you have a passport that is maybe restricts you for whatever reason. Maybe just there are some countries which I don't want to mention that can be difficult to get into, okay, even as a pilot. And some airlines don't fly into those countries for that reason. Well, if you have a second passport that is maybe from another country, well, that might be an opening, because now you have an unrestricted worldwide passport, if that makes sense. When you are applying for, when you are flying, okay, you only need to carry 1 passport. You don't need to carry your 2 passports, okay? You only need 1 passport. So if you're going into a country, most of the time, a good example, China. If you're going into a country like China, as a pilot, they actually have to give you a visa, even as a pilot. Whereas in most other countries, you don't need a visa. You just need to go through your border control of that country, or border CB. I've forgotten the full meaning, but you know, but the border patrol. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten what the CBBP stands for. But anyway, the the border control of that country, you would have to clear. You don't need a visa. But in other countries like China, for example, they will actually have to give you a visa ahead of time. So that means if you're traveling, if your schedule says you're going to China next month, you want to make sure that you have your visa processed before then, so that you don't get taken off the trip. Otherwise, they'll take you off the trip. All right, let's see. Did I mention that U.S. green card holder get a job as first officer in the U.S. Yes, as a green card holder, as long as you have a work authorization, you in the U.S. Yes, you can get to work and fly for these airlines. Please don't forget to drop your likes. I keep saying that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All that stuff, it goes a long way. If you have questions, drop it in. I will. Let me look at the time here. I have to be somewhere in about 14 minutes. So in about 14 minutes, I would have to put this to an end. We can always do this. Oh, by the way, this is to let you know that the reason why I decided to do this live, and I think I've shared that at the purpose, of course, to share this British Airways information with you guys, give you all the resources that you need, answer your questions, and it's been great. But one thing I want to emphasize is today's Saturday, and I was looking at my schedule for the month, for this month of September. I would be working all weekends, okay, going forward. I'm not working this weekend, but I'm actually starting work tomorrow. And for the next 4 weeks or so, I'm working from Friday through Monday. So I'm working all weekends. With that, I realized I wanted to do this live and cover this information because if this British Airways pilot program, pilot pathway program opens anytime during the week, you guys may be busy. If you guys are working, if you're in school, you may be busy, you might not catch this live. So I'm recording this video. If you want to play it back, and always take it back to watch it. You can always if you still have more questions, you can always leave a question in the comment section, not in the chat section, because once this live is over, the chat section is not going to be available to you, even though you will still see it. But leave your comments, leave your questions in the comment section, okay? And that's why I decided to do it this Saturday, because I realized this is an opportunity that maybe I'm able to catch some of you guys, and I'm glad that that is happening. All right, I'm moving on to the next thing here. It says, can I use? I've already answered that. Imran, like in Nigeria, will NECO be sufficient? NECO is considered. That's a good question. I'm thinking about NECO. It's considered a GCSE level, if I could remember correctly. From what I understand. Now, one thing to also remember is that they will have to do. I'm talking about British Airways, okay? Assuming you're successful through the whole process, they would have to verify your background. When they do a background check, they do your educational check as well, and they would have to do an equivalent of that qualification. And I think that was mentioned somewhere. Okay, here. 6 GCSE grade A through C, blah, 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 math, science, English, or equivalent qualifications. Okay, so as long as they can verify that your qualification matches up to these levels, you are good to go. All right, thanks, Stephen, for answering my question. I'm a UK citizen. I'm going to apply for the BA program. I've finished my CV. Is it possible if I can forward you my CV and seek advice from you? I would say what you can do is you can Solly, that's a question from Solly. You can send me a message on Instagram. Let's chat there. But one thing I want to say is that I don't know how many people will be seeing this video. I don't know how many people would want me to help them look at their resume. One thing I want to say is I'm not a professional at this, okay? I'm at reviewing resumes, and that's something that you need to keep in mind. And that's why I was showing you guys this program, the British Airways Future Pilot Program, Preparation Online, an online course. Now, if you come to, let me show you something here. Maybe I didn't mention that part. Somebody asked a question about the aptitude test. This is something this is part of it, okay? As you can see on your screen, I can zoom in so that you can see it better. But that's part of the psychometric tests that knowledge tests, it's part of the test anyway. These are sample questions. I thought I saw something somewhere on this website that talks about resume review. Let me see. I've shared this link with you guys, so you guys should see it. But I know there's some information somewhere on this website that talks about your resume, that talks about just in preparation for the opportunity. So I would say that you try to explore this website better, okay? Or at least some of those resources I've shared, try to explore them better. And remember, if I find more information, I would make more video and share it with you guys. All right, let's move on to this. Ooh, all right. Now, I am kind of lost. I have float eyes in my eyes. It doesn't obstruct my view in any way. Well, all right, from Martin Kwesi. He says, I have floats in my eyes. It doesn't obstruct my view in any way. Will I be able to still become a pilot? I get a lot of questions about medical. I'm not a medical expert, but I'm going to say this. As an airline pilot, you don't have to have a perfect vision. You have to have 20/20 vision, right? Or corrected with glasses like I'm wearing to 20/20. But in terms of if I take my glasses away, it's not like my vision is perfect. And when I fly, I wear glasses. So with that said, the best thing you can do, I don't know where you're from, but I'm going to guess maybe Ghana, I'm going to guess. But anyway, what you can do is you can actually meet with a aviation medical examiner in Ghana, all right, and get tested, because that is the only way you know. Before you invest any money into your pilot training, you actually want to make sure that when you finish your training, that you can actually work professionally. So you don't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars only for you to then realize that you can't fly, or be halfway through only for you to realize that you cannot fly professionally. Now, of course, when you start your flight training, you're going to get your medical done first, but sometimes it's funny, a lot of people don't do that medical until they actually start training. Like they're about to start training, let's say next week, that's when they get the medical done. And that can be short-sighted because you've spent money on applying for visa, you've spent money for airline tickets, you've now flown into the country, you've spent all this money only to then realize that you can't actually continue flight training, or you can't even start flight training because you don't have the right medical. So the best thing I can say is get checked. Also remember that because not every pilot is 100% what do you call it, has 100% vision or 100% medical condition, there are exceptions or exemptions. That's what it's called, and not exceptions. Exemptions that are available legally through the medical, aviation medical examiner, that they actually can grant, as long as it's not something that is they consider unsafe. Okay, that's the important part. All right, let's see. As well as that, do you recommend any website to get ready for the B aptitude test? I think I've just shared it. I've checked the link in the description section. You will see a lot of articles. Check Olivia's preparation or Olivia's experience. That's something to you guys to look at. It's long, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. Okay, that's the purpose of this in preparation for this cadet program. Are BA going to cover cost of first class medical? Well, no, because it says it there on the requirement that you should have that. Okay, so BA is not going to cover that. All right, next one. Okay, actually somebody already mentioned it. Thank you, Sally. You already answered the question. Let's see. Hi, Golden. It says, as an international student, if I take my training to CFI in USA, can I get job as an instructor to build hours in USA? Absolutely. If you, like you said, if you train all through to become a CFI, you can actually get a job to work as a CFI. However, there is always a restriction on your visa. I'm guessing you're an international student. Actually, you said it as an international student. Yes. So your visa on F1 visa, you are able to work for a certain amount of time. There's what they call optional practical training. I don't want to get into all of that. I have a video on it. If you don't mind, if you search F1 visa or M1 visa on some of my videos, you see some videos where I talk about F1 and M1 and how the benefits of one over the other. But yes, the short answer is you can work as an instructor as an international student. Okay. What are you studying? Are you planning going to uni? Is that a question for? I don't know if sorry if that was the question for me or not. Are we expected to do medicals ourselves? John Maxwell, yes, you're expected to do your medicals yourself. And submit the certificate or medicals will be done. But yes, you would have to submit that yourself, do your medical. Of course, they're going to do, as they do more background checks on you, they'll probably, actually, I'm not sure about that. In the US, okay, in the US, you still have to, you're required to have a medical as a pilot, okay, to apply for a job. So when you go through the hiring process, they don't ask you again. They may ask you for a copy of a medical, but they don't ask you to go do a medical test unless they suspect something is wrong. Unless they suspect your medical is not authentic, then they may have you do a medical again from an AME that they recommend. But that is not something that happens a lot. It's very, very rare. Okay. All right. Let's see. Doing geography, English, and computer science. No planning on doing degree apprenticeship. Though it looks very competitive. Okay. I think that's not a question. I saw. Okay, I can see you guys are answering some of your questions. I like that. This is great. Again, I thank you guys. It's almost, so I have about 5 minutes left. I'm just going to go to the bottom of this, okay, and make sure that I've covered some of the questions. I can see you guys are having your charts. I think when this live even ends, the chat still stays on for some time. I'm not sure. I want to see. Can you talk about yourself? Also, is there any problem hiring me if I'm Arab? All right, from year 8, is there any problem hiring if you're Arab? A lot of pilots are from Arab, all right, in the Arabian region, and they're not. I haven't seen any issues with that, and that's a great question, but I don't think there's any restrictions to you working. Now, of course, you have to have the authorization to work in the country, right? With this British Airways program, I believe that since they have taken out the stipulation, which I've mentioned, I don't know if whatever at what phase you joined this video, I've mentioned that it's almost 50-50 that as an international student, you can apply, okay? I say 50-50 because when the application window actually opens up, that's when we get to know these full details. But in the application criteria, it's not stated there. And usually in the past, they've always stated it, all right? But this time around, they took it away. So my guess is this may be open to everybody. So if you're Arab or you're from Africa, Asia, wherever you're from, I believe this opportunity may be open to you, but I am not 100% sure. All right, guys, it's been great. It's been awesome, actually, because like I said, this is my first live video. So if you do so it's been awesome. I hope that you guys have found value in this. I'm going to answer this question real quick, and this will be the last one, all right? From Vincent, it says, is it true that the airline take your mental health history very seriously? As in, if one has had history of poor mental health, can this negatively impact your prospect with their airline career? That is 100% true, okay? That is 100% true. So keep in mind, it's a job in which you are flying people. You're responsible for the lives of people, and you're flying $1 million, multi-million-dollar airplanes and stuff like that. So you want to, they take those things seriously. And of course, you have to guard against your mental health also. So anyway, I really thank you guys. It's exactly 1 hour, 30 minutes. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the comments. Please don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to leave your comment section, your comments or questions in the comment section below. I would love to do this again, but of course, I would give you guys a heads up much more in advance in comparison to this time. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.